Next on the news, the world is one step closer to meeting a new pope. We count down to the conclave and take a look into this ancient tradition. Some young Catholics are casting their own votes on the next pope. Students at St. Joseph's Catholic Academy in Astoria held their own conclave. The Diocese of Brooklyn is highlighting the amazing qualities of a Catholic education with one of their biggest fundraisers. We speak with one of the recipients.
A Queens woman is grateful to be able to send her children to Catholic school with a little help from an angel. I'm Katie Vasquez, and I'll have that story coming up.
Plus, as the world continues to mourn Pope Francis, a look back at one of his favorite sculptures. I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. A date has been set for when the College of Cardinals will pick the next pope. The conclave for the 267th successor of St. Peter will begin on May 7th. But this ancient practice goes far beyond just casting a simple ballot. The idea of cardinals picking a new pope dates back centuries, but the conclaves Catholics have come to know today first began in the 13th century. After the longest conclave ever elected Pope Gregory X, it took 2 years and 9 months. It was that Holy Father who would create the rules the Red Hats still follow today. Technically, any Roman Catholic male can be elected the leader of the Universal Church. But since the 14th century, every pope has previously been a cardinal. The task of electing the next successor of St. Peter falls to the College of Cardinals. They must be younger than 80 years old to participate, and all eligible candidates must vote in person. Before they start voting, all the Red Hats, including those over 80, gather for crucial meetings in Rome. It's here that the big questions facing the church are discussed and potential candidates start to emerge. The conclave officially begins with a prayer service in the Pauline Chapel. The princes of the Catholic Church will pray the Litany of the Saints before entering in procession into the Sistine Chapel, where they are sealed inside. They aren't allowed to speak to anyone outside of the process, read media reports, receive messages, or discuss the details of the elections afterwards. If they break the conclave's secrecy rules, they risk excommunication. Once the voting starts, they write a candidate's name on a ballot, and in order of seniority, they drop them into a chalice. Cardinals aren't allowed to vote for themselves. The results are recorded by 3 designated cardinals. To be elected pope, a candidate needs to get 2/3 of the vote. They'll cast their votes 4 times a day, every day, until they reach that threshold, and the man chosen accepts the decision of the cardinals. If no man is elected after 4 days, the conclave breaks for prayer and discussion before trying again. The ballots are burned after each round of voting. If there's no winner, a chemical is added to turn the smoke black, so the people waiting in St. Peter's Square know that a new pope has not yet been chosen. But when the pope has been elected, a different chemical is added to ensure the smoke comes out white, signaling a new pontiff. Finally, a senior cardinal tells the world, we have a pope.
Habemus papam.
And introduces the new Holy Father to the crowd gathered in St. Peter's Square. Then the new pope goes out onto the balcony to make his first remarks and give his blessing. Since 1900, the average conclave has lasted about 3 days. Pope Francis and Pope Benedict XVI both took 2 days to be elected. This conclave is expected to be the largest in history and the most diverse in almost 50 years. Currently, there are 135 cardinals who will be able to vote. Among the electors, the number of European Red Hats is 53. The number of Asian electors is 23. Africa, 18, North America will have 16, South America, 17, Central America, 4, and Oceania, 4. Pope Francis has named 80% of the men who will elect his successor. Normally, there's a limit to the amount of cardinal electors, which Pope Paul VI informally set as 120 in 1975. But plenty of his successors have exceeded that number at various points in their papacies. One of those red hats will not be attending the conclave. Italian Cardinal Giovanni Angelo Becciu releasing a statement Tuesday saying he will obey the will of the late Pope Francis and not take part in the next papal election. In 2023, Cardinal Becciu was convicted of embezzlement, aggravated fraud, and abuse of office. The Italian Red Hat has also been perpetually disqualified from holding public office. He is currently appealing the conviction. For more than 100 electors, this will be their first time taking part in the conclave. That will be the case for Vatican prefect Cardinal Michael Czerny, who was elevated to the College of Cardinals in 2019. He spoke about the upcoming papal election.
I think, it's a very traditional process, and it's puzzling. Despite the good movie, it's still puzzling, and it will remain puzzling or mysterious. But I think every one of us trusts it, and we will each give our best, and the result will be what God wants.
Cardinal Czerny went on to say he thinks the next pope should be a risk taker. Those red hats might be able to take some advice from some Catholic school students in Astoria. The kids at St. Joseph Catholic Academy held their own conclave on Tuesday.
Cardinal from Jerusalem, and his concern is for migrants.
The students were informed about some of the top contenders to be the next successor of St. Peter before the entire school cast their ballots. While it'll take the Queen's Catholic Academy a day to count the votes, you can trust that they were guided by the Holy Spirit. Ahead of the Academy's conclave, the school gathered together in Mass, which remembered Pope Francis and the good he did for the Universal Church. Be sure to stick with Currents News for full coverage of the conclave in Rome. Our Currents News Katie Vasquez and Melissa Butts-Corsi will be in the Eternal City for the historic vote, which again will begin on May 7th. So be sure to tune in to Currents News for all the latest. One priest and his parishioners recently went to Rome to become pilgrims of hope. Father Robert Adamo, the pastor of St. Ephraim's Church in Dyker Heights, brought a group of more than a dozen faithful to the Eternal City for the 2025 Jubilee. He joins us now to talk about the pilgrimage. Hi, Father.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
So tell us about the trip. What were some of the highlights of the Jubilee celebrations for you?
So it was wonderful to be 21 of us. We were wonderful to be part of the Jubilee of Pilgrims of Hope. And the highlight was that we were able to go through the 4 Jubilee doors in Rome: St. Peter's, St. John Lateran, Mary Major, and St. Paul outside the church. There is one more, but that's the prison, so we weren't able to be at that. That was wonderful to be part of this special time together.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And as you know, you were in Rome during some of the last weeks of Pope Francis's papacy. Does that maybe change how you view the pilgrimage? You know, the Jubilee was one of the last celebrations the Pope took part in.
Absolutely, because we were not expecting that.
Yeah.
We arrived the day he was released from the hospital, and we were so hopeful that he was doing so much better. But, God had other plans, obviously, for him. And it is a special time that he called the Jubilee year after 25 years, every 25 years. And it was just so beautiful. And after the extraordinary Jubilee year of mercy. So it was just a wonderful time to be together and to be there in the Eternal City.
Absolutely. And now cardinals will soon elect the new Holy Father.
Yes.
What qualities are you hoping for in the next Pope?
So I'm hoping that the next Pope will also continue the pastoral work of Pope Francis. You know, he started his papacy telling the bishops and the priests we must smell like the sheep. And it was truly his word. It could have been his motto, if you will, wearing that particular pectoral cross with the shepherd and the sheep, and to the very end, even going, when his body was being brought to St. Mary Major among the people, he truly was a shepherd, in all his ways, and he tried to bring the church to the periphery, to the marginalized, to the poor. And even as those marginalized people welcomed him at the steps of Mary Major as he went into, it just came full circle, you know, from the very first words he uttered until the very last. I think that would be important for me, that the new Pope would continue to be that kind of a leader, using his, being a true pastoral shepherd.
Absolutely. Father Robert Adamo, pastor of St. Ephraim's, thanks so much for being here.
You're welcome so much. Thank you.
Turning now to the Angels, who are making a Catholic education possible for students across the Diocese of Brooklyn. Futures in Education is an organization that provides scholarships to hundreds of kids, ensuring they are part of a classroom that enriches them body, mind, and soul. One mom in Queens says the organization was a godsend for her 5 kids. Currents News' Katie Vasquez has that story from Queens Village.
Let's go, guys. We're running late. We only have a few minutes.
Narissa Gordon and her 5 kids are headed to Saints Joachim and Anne School, a Catholic education that she has prayed for.
I wanted them to be closer to God.
Narissa was disappointed in the public school her children went to. At one point, the retired Queens mom was willing to return to work so her 3 girls and 2 boys, 4 of whom are in foster care, could have the quality education.
I was willing to do everything that I possibly can to get them on the right track. Enjoy your day at school, guys.
But as a single mom, she didn't think a Catholic education was possible until she learned of Futures in Education. Their Angel program helps provide tuition assistance to students that need it.
When I went there, she told me about some financial aid program. So and then I started praying about that. Kendra, can you need help?
It was tough changing schools in 8th grade, but it proved to be better for 14-year-old Kendra Lee.
Well, I've learned more about Jesus. I've learned more about God, which I personally felt, as a person myself, I never had a close relationship with God.
And she's also seen a positive change in her siblings.
It was like a fresh start, a page that we all needed in our lives.
Kendra Lee will head to St. Francis Prep next year and knows it wouldn't have been possible without God and her mom.
I'm very grateful that I have Mommy here because she has helped me so much in my life.
All you can eat?
Yes.
And Narissa is content knowing her kids are finally on the right path.
It gives me joy to be a foster parent, to be a foster parent and to be able to teach them about God. So I know that that's what my kids wanted. That's what they needed in their lives. Do you need help?
Narissa is looking forward to being part of the Futures in Education Gala on April 29th. In Queens Village, Katie Vasquez, Currents News.
On Tuesday night, Futures in Education will hold its biggest fundraiser. The annual gala raises more than $1 million for students in the diocese and is a testament to the community's dedication to Catholic education. I have the honor of emceeing the event, and Currents News will have full coverage, so be sure to tune in Wednesday at our usual time, 7 p.m. Finally tonight, on this 4th day of mourning following the death of Pope Francis, we look at one of the late Holy Father's favorite sculptures. In 2019, the Pope of the Peripheries unveiled Angels Unawares to the world. The 20-foot tall statue depicts a boat carrying migrants and refugees from different eras in history, and within them, a pair of angel wings. Pope Francis loved the art so much that a week before his death, the late pontiff approved a second statue by the same artist. And if the statue looks familiar to you, it's because it briefly made a stop in the Diocese of Brooklyn. A reproduction of the sculpture was part of the diocese's Grand Army Plaza Christmas display in 2020, before it was permanently installed at the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. That is this Currents News update. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.